Woohoo! Welcome back to Shifts and Giggles, conversations with Beth, where we explore the shifts that shake us up, wake us up, and hopefully leave us laughing a little along the way because I do love to laugh. Today, we're talking about thresholds, those moments when we're letting go of who we've been and stepping into who we're becoming. My guest, Lauri Ingram, knows these moments well. After spending more than 40 years in the structured world of IT, she followed a calling she could no longer ignore and stepped onto a very different path. Today, Lauri helps people navigate life's transitions as a spiritual coach, hypnotherapist, energy healer, celebrant, and guide. And whether she's officiating a wedding ceremony or helping someone through a personal transformation, she's supporting people as they cross important thresholds in their lives. We'll explore what it felt like to leave a successful career and trust the unknown, why some of life's biggest transitions happen without a ceremony, and how Lauri combines conscious coaching, subconscious healing, and spiritual practices to help people reconnect with themselves. If you've ever had that feeling that there's something more calling you forward, I think you're going to love this conversation. Lauri, welcome to Shifts and
Yes, that's
Giggles.
awesome. Well, thank you. It's nice to be here. I think we've all had that feeling at some point in our life, right?
A
Whether we
hundred
acknowledge it or not is
percent.
another thing, but
And I've
there's
had that
something.
feeling like, is this all there is to life? And that was kind of like the nudge to me.
That's,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, right.
for
So
many of us, it is a
what
nudge.
do you consider a threshold, a threshold? How do you know when you're standing on one?
There tends to be a combination of sometimes it's a physical feeling of almost something pulling you forward energetically, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
what is this pull? That's how it was for me. Sometimes it's I don't say voices in your head, but it was for me. It was when I would go quiet, I would hear voices of what I eventually through my spiritual journey found were guides and all those things trying to tell me something and I just couldn't figure out what it was. But there's something trying to get your attention often. It could also feel for myself, but even for most of my clients, it's an unsettled feeling of not being able to make a decision or repeating the same patterns that are not necessarily helpful. But
So
it's
like
knowing
being
that they're not
stuck,
helpful, right?
being
Yeah, it's
stuck.
being stuck. It's often described as being stuck, right? That repetitive doing the same thing over and over again that's not good, or not being able to do that thing that you're a little bit maybe afraid of trying.
Yeah, which is challenging. So do you want to share with
Yeah.
us like kind of your threshold, your pivot that you made in
There've
your
been a
life?
few. There've been a few. I quite honestly, I think that's what life is. Life is a series of pivots and thresholds. Some of them are very subtle, some of them are more dramatic. Some of them we engage in ourselves, some of them the universe gives us a push.
Yeah, I've had a few of those.
Or a two by four upside the head, right?
If
Or
you don't
whatever that
listen to the whisper.
right, right. It's so for myself, the biggest there have been a couple of large thresholds that weren't necessarily all entirely kind of my doing, but in my mid 30s, within the period of about a year or 2 years, I was married. I had my daughter. My mother passed away fairly young. Um, and my marriage kind of ended. And I went through kind of financial catastrophe. And that all happened
That's a
in a
lot.
fairly short amount of time, a few years, you know. Um, that was one threshold in my 30s that led me to really 20 years of being in survival mode. Um, and I went through 20 years of depression and anxiety and kind of just surviving as a single
Right.
mother, right? But the next big threshold came when my daughter was out of high school, and it was that, wait, that's it, right? I've been surviving my whole life. Um, and that was when I began to practice meditation, and I started to listen to what was outside of my brain, those voices that I couldn't quite put the handle on.
Yeah.
Um, and I was working in IT. I had been working in IT, and I was doing well, and I really liked the people I work with. It wasn't that I hated my job. I really didn't hate my job, but it wasn't like fulfilling. It was a job.
Right.
And I remember mentioning that to my boss, that I just felt like I was going through the motions every day. And she said to me, well, what is your why? Like, why do you work aside from the paycheck? And I was realizing, like, I really didn't know, right? I didn't have that kind of meaning in my life. I didn't have that purpose, right?
Yeah.
But what that did, and this is the way I think it works personally in my and I see it everywhere. When you tell the universe, whatever you call it, that you're ready, and when your energy matches that, right? When you are in an energetic space, when you feel ready, when your emotions are all in alignment, the universe responds. And so for me, it responded with, you can become a mindfulness advocate at work. So I was able to, it was the side of my desk thing, it wasn't my job, teach mindfulness and lead mindfulness groups and meditation at work.
And what a
That's what,
creative way to do that.
and that's what made me realize, oh, this is what I want to do. Because it was easy, right? It just kind of flowed, and it felt natural. So that started me down. So that threshold in effect was me saying, I want to know. Tell me. Show me what's coming next, right?
I love that.
Um, and then it was just a process of exploration. The next large threshold for me was really breast cancer, which this was like 12 years ago now, which then made me realize I needed to get serious about not just dabbling, which at that point I was kind of just like dabbling and having fun and working, to really figuring out what it was that I was really here to do.
Yeah,
Um,
like what your life
yeah,
mission
what
was,
is
what your
really my life
purpose was.
purpose? Yeah. And I do believe it's to really be that bridge, that threshold crosser for other people, because we all go through them, whether we lose a job, lose a family member, there's loss that's a threshold. In the weddings that I do, weddings are a threshold. You're changing who you are. You're becoming part of a partnership. You're not losing who you are, but you're also creating something new when you're married. Um,
Well, and even smaller moments, graduations or
Graduations, yeah.
um, a new job. It's just like new chapters in our
A
lives.
new
We all have
home,
lots
right?
of
Moving.
chapters in our lives.
Yes. And sometimes yeah, your identity changes, your physical location changes.
Yeah, you're an empty
Yeah,
nester all of a sudden.
right.
You
Yeah.
become a mother.
Right. Yes. Become a mother, you get a dog,
You get a
whatever.
dog, exactly.
But pets are, they bring a different energy
Yeah.
into your life. So,
So, like, what would life look like if we honored life's endings and beginnings, those thresholds in a more conscious way, more intentionally?
mm, I think if we look at life a little bit differently, everything is spiritual. I mean, you and I sitting here is a spiritual experience, right?
Absolutely.
Um, everything has a spiritual aspect to it, whatever you define that as. And if we start to look at those small and large opportunities, to mark them with ceremony and ritual, and it can be simple, doesn't have to be extravagant, but simple. We acknowledge the meaning that they're bringing into our life. We acknowledge that we are on a path of growth and expansion all the time. And isn't
Yes.
that what makes life fun and
Yes.
challenging? And challenging, but it makes it fun. The seasons change, right? It's um those are thresholds, right? Going from the inward part of, the inners of winter to the the blooming of spring, and we mark those with ceremonies and rituals, and just acknowledging it, sometimes is enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've always been somebody who loves watching the sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
And to
Yeah.
me, that's a daily reminder.
Mhm.
That's a daily threshold and a sunset too, another daily threshold that we
Yeah.
cross.
Right. And if we start to pay attention to those little micro moments, I think it becomes easier for us to see the beauty in the world when things may be not so easy too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
beautiful. And
yeah, because
also to remind us that everything is temporary.
everything is temporary. Everything. Yeah. And that can be challenging to consider, but everything is. But how boring would life be if it wasn't, too?
Pretty boring, Lori.
It would
Pretty
be. It
boring.
would be. And for myself, I was stuck in a, period of like 20 years. That was pretty boring. It was boring. It was work and home, and that was boring. Until it couldn't be boring anymore.
Until you didn't allow it to be boring
Yeah,
anymore.
it's like I can't do this. I can't just keep this up.
And I think everybody gets to a place like that in their lives where it's just like, isn't there more to life than this?
Yes. What I notice is that I think for many of us of a certain age range, it becomes when you're in quote unquote retire. I'm going to put quote unquote retirement. But do you know that if I look at my client base, I have a lot of people who are on the younger who are coming to me with that feeling of being early in their career, have just gone through college and spent all this time and training and get into something and realize I don't want to do this.
What
I
was I
wasn't doing what I
thinking?
wanted to do, right? And having that connection to something outside themselves and then saying, but what do I do? Now what do I do?
Well, and it's that questioning that brings about the transformation. But how much of transformation happens consciously and how much happens beneath the surface?
There is so much beneath the surface. So this is what I learned, because this is what I learned for myself. Right. Once I had a connection spiritually, had a sense of what my purpose, so to speak, was in being here. Um, what I've found and learned about myself is that subconsciously, which I believe is like over 90% of what we do, the decisions we
That's
make, the things
amazing.
is subconscious, right? It's running everything, whether we realize it or not. And that held me back for a long time. And it holds so many of us back, and we don't know why. It's the stories from our childhood. Our subconscious is built to protect us. That's what it's here to do. It doesn't discern. It just wants to keep us safe and in our little
Box.
world, our little box, right? And not um often not allow us to take those steps to be seen, or to tell us, oh wait, that don't do that, somebody might say something, or maybe somebody else is better than you, or all those things that we may have just inherited when we were young. And again, for some of us, those patterns are pretty deeply ingrained. um so it takes subconscious work to change them, because you can change them. I have an IT background. It's like a program. You just change it's a program that's not working to help you anymore, and you need to literally reprogram your brain.
I love that. I love how that skill set for you
I
applies
do.
to your spiritual woo-woo place, you
It
know?
does. It does. And it's also building the capacity to hold that new version of yourself too. But it's an energetic practice too, is being able to step into that container of who am I fully, um, and allowing those stories to not stop you and change them, reframe things. And what I found is, for many of us, we know we have something holding us back, so we buy the books, we do the self-help stuff, we do the affirmations, and but that's doesn't get to the subconscious. I mean, over time, it might make a dent, but doing the subconscious work is so much faster
Well,
than,
so how do people work with you on their subconscious beliefs?
well, the first thing we do is figure out what those limiting beliefs are. And I have many different modalities. The
You
primary
have a
one
lot of tools in your
I
tool
have a
belt.
tools in my toolkit. Yes, I do. Um, I use crystal dreaming to help people connect with their purpose and explore their connection to spirit. But then for the subconscious work, we use hypnosis, hypnotherapy. I do energy work, Reiki. I also do tapping to help get the energy moving. And I have a whole bunch of other very cool brain techniques, neuro
Don't you
linguistic
do NLP, right? Neuro
NLP,
linguistic
yes.
programming.
Yep. So we help change the way our brain perceives things and perceives events. We can actually go back in time and change our brain's perception of things that may have happened to us in previous lives or earlier in our life. And we do that at a subconscious level.
So what does a session with you look like?
Well,
Like, how does
a
somebody
si-
work with you? How do they like?
so there's really a couple ways to work with me. If somebody has something very, very specific, I'll just use a very generic example. They have to they're going to be speaking in front of a group of people, right? And they're petrified. Like they know what they're talking about, but they're really nervous. They've never done public speaking. They have a lot of anxiety about perhaps being laughed at or made fun of. We can work with that very specific thing in a single like 90-minute session.
That's amazing.
And then what I do with my clients is I give them supporting. I record hypnosis and I also do subliminal audios for them that they can then practice because the subconscious likes repetition, repetition, repetition. That's for a very specific thing. Most people come to me and they're really not sure what. So we work over a period of time, either in
Yeah,
three
so they're like,
sessions or
I'm
six
stuck and I
sessions.
don't know what I want to
I don't know
do.
why. So we do it over a period of 3 to 6 sessions. And we start with, well, let's uncover really what's going on. We may use crystal dreaming in there to help them connect with that spiritual aspect, but then we will work on removing limiting beliefs. And then at the end of this periods of sessions, we essentially reinstall a new version of themselves
I love
over
that.
time. Yeah, and that just takes a bit of time. Um,
What is crystal
6 sessions
dreaming?
or
What does
so.
a crystal dreaming session look like?
A crystal dreaming session is it's really a journey. It's a shamanic journey, but it uses crystal energy to bridge between this realm of physicality and the other ethers. Um
So
to
it's like a portal,
it's a portal. It is. It's
a
actually creating a
threshold.
portal, and the crystals create the portal with the energy that they hold. And so people have the opportunity to um connect with guides, get insight about their lives and what's next for them at a level that's beyond the physical. So it really helps them remember who they really are. And that for me was what was such a huge talk about thresholds for me, probably 8 to 10 years ago now, when I had a session and I experienced not being in my body but being part of something much bigger that made me realize that, oh yeah, this world is not the truth for us as
Wow.
souls.
So it was a powerful holy
It was
shift moment for
it
you.
was a very powerful moment. I mean, I remember it was like 90 minutes and I walked out and I was like, I don't know what happened, but like literally everything changed. Everything changed. And when I
Wow.
bring my clients through that process, and it happens different for every people because every person, you kind of have to be ready for that. Or at the point in your life where that's what you need to see.
Right.
But when you can connect with that total inner peace and know that you are not that you truly are as it's a spiritual being and you happen to be in a body right now. Um but there's more beyond what we see physically here.
Yeah, that's
Um,
for sure.
so yeah. So that can often be part of it too. Usually at the beginning of the 6 sessions, that's what we'll start with because that can give people the opportunity to get out of their thinking mind,
Right.
um, and just be curious about where they really need to go
Well, and I
and what they
think
need.
curiosity is an invitation to
It
yourself to
is.
explore what is beyond what you are thinking, you know?
Oh, I know. No, because quite honestly, we really don't know, but that's what makes it fun to
And
explore.
if we think that we know,
We
we
probably don't.
definitely do
We
not
don't
know.
definitely do not know. But that just goes to show it's fun to ask the questions. It's really fun to ask the questions. Um, yeah.
Yeah, so I have a question for you.
Oh boy. Okay.
Who did you have to stop being in
Um,
order for you to become who you are today?
uh, I had to stop being the person who stayed small, who was not who sat in the back of the room, who was not seen, who blended in, who didn't speak, um, who didn't want to cause, who didn't want to ruffle feathers, who just wanted to be seen as quote unquote, normal.
Normal. I always
Yeah.
say normal is a drier setting,
It's a
okay?
dry. Yeah. Yeah, but I think for myself, as I look back on my life, that was always that part of me was always wanted to get out. Was always like pushing out. I mean, when I was really little, I remember my mother bought me, I think they're called those I Ching sticks,
Oh,
fortune
yeah.
telling sticks. Yes. And I was little, probably 4 or 5. My mother bought those for me. And I remember playing with those and having this was back in the 60s, right? I had a Ouija board. I had all those things. I was always my favorite book growing up was A Wrinkle in Time.
Wow.
A Wrinkle in Time to me was like it spoke to me. Like, so I was always curious, but I never allowed myself to pursue it. I never allowed myself to even really talk about it. But
So
that was
what was that threshold? When did you cross that threshold? Was that when you started, was it when you were working in IT and you decided that you were going to do the mindfulness?
Yeah, and actually before that, I had made the decision because I had been on anxiety and depression medication for about 20 years, and I was in therapy for like 20 years, and I got to the point where I'm like, this is not working for me anymore after 20
Yeah.
years. Um, that was very, very fortunate, and I found, and this was a while ago, 15 years ago or so, a holistic therapist who said to me, we're going to get you off of that medication. And then she also introduced me to, and I believe the person was a homeopathic person,
Yeah.
homeopathy.
Yeah.
And so it took about 2 years for me to wean off of that medication. And once I did, it was like the fog lifted and I was able to actually I don't know how to describe it, see color and um feel alive.
Wow.
So it took a long threshold, it was a long threshold to because finding somebody who would support me through that
Right.
was not easy. It was not really easy. But it all was part of the hearing the voice, hearing those voices in my
Hearing the
head.
voices in your
It was
head.
like, Lauri, come on. You got, and I was like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
Speak louder.
Speak louder. But that was all part of it. It was all it's time to get out from under that what I was hiding beneath for so long.
So imagine someone listening right now who feels stuck or restless or knows something needs to change, but they don't know what would. They don't know what needs to change. What would you want them to hear? What would you like to say to them?
I would so I would say that if you don't know, you actually do know. Somewhere deep inside you, you know, and your soul's wants to help you remember. And learning how being quiet works for each person. I think it's a very individual thing, but find a way for you to quiet the thinking mind or not allow your thinking mind to kind of hijack
Run the show.
your thought process, right? For me, it was journaling too. Um, it was a combination of meditation and journaling and allowing myself to explore. I encourage people to try things. Go to a sound bath, see what happens. See if that
What's the
works.
worst that can happen?
No, really. For me, it was float tanks. I discovered
Oh,
float
I
tanks.
love a
Love
float
float
tank.
tanks. That is what helped me. I just started trying things. I was going to sound baths. I tried crystal dreaming. I went to I started to go to float tanks. I was hiking. I was just doing all the things. And I would just say what was calling to me and feeling that it was helping me open up. And after crystal dreaming, it was the float tanks for me was what really just helped me um allow my allow my soul to almost rest and
Mm.
expand. And I would just like listen and have conversations, you know.
And trying something new, like stepping
Trying
out of
something.
your small little box and just
Yeah.
widening your circle in a lot of
Yeah.
ways makes a huge difference.
And watch for synchronicities. Synchronicities are so important. As part of that, my journey, I went to somebody who introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody, and I would just follow it. And the next, and at that point, through that following people, I had met an energy healer, which really helped me physically unblock a lot of things. All because I was curious and I went for an angel reading, and she said, "Oh, you should come to our spiritual community." So I'm like, "Okay." And then I said, "You should go see this energy healer." Sure.
You were open and
I was
willing.
very open and curious and just gave myself permission to play and to see where it took me.
I love
And
it.
I still do
Following the
that. I still
breadcrumbs.
still do that now. You still have to follow the breadcrumbs
Yeah.
because things
They're
will show.
around us all the time.
They are. We just have to see them. And I never thought I would be doing weddings or life celebrations or
How
baby
did that
blessings.
threshold happen?
That happened because a friend of mine who was doing weddings in the Hudson Valley had too many. She couldn't do them all. And she says, "Do you want to? I'll give you the ones I can't do." So I was like, "Sure." I'm very comfortable speaking in front of people because I was trained in public speaking in my career. And I'm like, well, sure. And I found like I really love this because it's creative and you're creating an experience, whether it's a celebration of life or a wedding or bringing a new baby in. It's all about how people are feeling, building the energy container, whether it's two people or 200 people. Um, you're marking a moment that energetically has profound transformational opportunities for the people involved, whether
I
they
love
realize it or not. And a lot of the folks I work with may not realize it, but um,
I love that marking a moment
yeah,
because
it
that's
is.
another threshold. The pause between breaths is a threshold, right?
It is. It's one that we take for granted.
Yeah, well, one day we won't.
We won't. One day we won't. Yeah.
Just saying.
Oh, I know. This is
Um,
true. This is true.
that's what makes life so precious,
Yeah,
right?
it really does. And I think we often just get we think we're doing all the right things, right? Might have the job, the house, whatever. But that's all so as you mentioned, it's all so temporary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything else you want people to know?
I would say just give, I really like the thought of giving yourself permission. Consider this podcast your permission slip.
I love
To
that. You're giving
to
us a cosmic permission
to
slip.
cosmic permission slip to just try something and not um without expectation, right? Just say, I'm going to explore this art class, see where it takes me. I've always wanted to paint. Let me try. Um, Take a trip. I love to do that. That's what I do sometimes. I don't take a trip so much as I will get in my car and I will just go somewhere I've never been before for the day.
I
I
love
love
that.
doing that. A town I haven't been in. As long as it has a bakery, I'm happy, right? I find a yeah, a change of scenery can do wonders.
That's
Wonders
true. A
for
road trip can do
yeah.
wonders. It doesn't have to be a big
Not to be
road
a big
trip.
thing. It really doesn't at all.
Change of scenery
Change of scenery. Yeah.
for sure. So where can people find you, Lori?
So I have my website is lauriingram.com, and you can find me there. My events are there. I do periodically have workshops
And
locally here in
retreats.
Connecticut, and retreats and all sorts of fun things a few times a year. I work in person in Hamden, but I do a lot of work remotely too. I can do everything, even crystal dreaming remotely. So I
I
do
love
remote
that.
work as well. And I'm most active on Instagram, Lauri.m.ingram on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel as well. Nobody can find.
Awesome. You're in all the
I'm
places.
in all the places,
In the subconscious.
in the ethers, flying around. Yeah.
I love that. Um, Thank you so much for being with me today.
No, thank you for having me.
And thanks to the listeners for being here, and stay tuned for the next episode.